This one's really difficult because this might make some people not like me, which isn't a fun thing to have to do, but here we go. It's time to talk about NPD, which is the more obnoxious of the personality disorders. This is the one, narcissistic personality disorder. Of course, this is the one that makes you act like a total arsehole to people. And it has the 9 markers, 9 criteria that you have to fulfill to have NPD. And as I've said in the past, I had all of them, which didn't make me a particularly pleasant individual to be around. But things have changed sort of significantly over the last year, and I think I'm down to probably, in actual fact, at the moment, none of them, which is good. It's something I'm very seriously keeping my eye on and watching for any of these traits coming back. I think they never go away. I could be wrong with that, but I feel like these things never go away. The same is true of BPD as well. We just learn how to deal with them and act accordingly. So, let's deal with the first one that I want to talk about, which is empathy, or a lack thereof. No empathy. Nothing. Empathy is understanding how other people feel and feeling that same way. Sometimes it's really easy, right? Sometimes we know exactly how we're supposed to outwardly display our emotions to make it look like we feel something. It's really easy sometimes. Weddings, birthdays, parties, nights out, all of these are really easy things to know. I should be happy now. Smile. Everybody else is happy. And the same goes for equally bad things, funerals, deaths. I've lost my car keys. All obvious things I should feel bad about. But the rest of the time, and the sort of grey areas in between, can be tricky because you don't really appreciate how other people are feeling and you don't know how you're supposed to feel and that sort of thing. It brings with it further problems if you're also dealing with BPD at the same time. NPD gives you this lack of empathy. I don't know how other people are feeling. And BPD gives you the ability to fill in the blanks over here with utter rubbish. Because all of this stuff is about paranoia, they hate me, they're trying to get one over on me, there's something sneaky going on behind my back, all of this sort of thing. And you transport all of these fears and worries and put them in the emotions and intentions of other people, which is 99.9% of the time total rubbish. So, as I sit here now, I feel empathy. I can tell you the date that started happening. I'll tell you the story and how I sort of came to start feeling empathy. According to my research, it was the 7th of February this year. That's when I started feeling empathy. The strangest of things. The reason why I know it was the 7th of February is because that's when the news broke about Philip Schofield, the This Morning presenter, coming out as gay. Now, I don't have any particular strong emotional link to Philip Schofield in any way, shape or form. He's a guy on TV. And I have been very much aware of potential struggles that gay people face around the world and in this country and coming out. All of this. Nothing was new. Nothing was particularly shocking or whatever. I read the news like everybody else. But I found myself crying over it. I was actually crying. I have no idea why that was the thing that set me off. Honestly, it feels like such an odd thing. But suddenly I was upset to the point of crying at simply the thought that here was somebody who was a gay person who had felt, for whatever reason, that he couldn't live his life and be himself until he was the age that Philip Schofield is. I'm not even getting into details of his particular story. It was just noticing that there's this pain that another human being was going through. And that was enough to make me cry. By the way, it's a sort of opening the floodgates kind of thing, right? Like, I honestly feel my normal response to such a news story would have been, oh, Philip Schofield's gay. Huh. That's it. It's not normally the kind of news story that would elicit outward pouring of emotion, but this time it did. And I realized it was because I felt bad because he felt bad. And that was it. We can dig into the story and debate just how bad Philip actually felt really at the time, but as the news story broke, I felt bad because he felt bad. I felt empathy. It was the 7th of February 2020. I was upset because a stranger, someone I've never met, don't know. For all I know, Philip Schofield is CGI. I don't know. But I was sad for him. Now, how did I arrive at that? And the truth is, I actually arrived at it through an exercise I was doing relating to BPD. And that was all about thinking the worst of things, catastrophizing. That's another thing I'll come back to in a BPD video. Always thinking of the worst thing. Why hasn't so-and-so replied to my message? Why hasn't somebody liked this Facebook post? All of these things, little normal social interactions that get catastrophized and pulled down to the lowest point that they could be normally. And of course, those things you think are never true. People have lots of reasons for not replying to that message yet or whatever. You have no idea what is going on for them in their life right now, this minute, that is stopping them from replying to that message. And so the exercise that I came up with, or that I chose for me to try and get over that, was when I feel this feeling of why aren't they doing this? Why have they said that? What, and so on. I sit there and just try and come up with as many reasons as I possibly can for why somebody has done something. And the way that works is once you get past 2 or 3 of them, you're pretty much done with worrying about it. Right? Why hasn't this person replied? Well, maybe they had to go to the loo. Maybe there's someone stood at the front door they can't get rid of. Maybe they've dropped their phone and they can't get it from wherever they've dropped it. But, you know, there's so many things that you can come up with for why has somebody done something. And eventually you realize, well, I've just come up with the worst one. It's probably this thing or that thing, or it could be 4 of them or whatever. And it goes away. And so in doing that, in looking at why people do things, I eventually moved into the area of maybe this person feels bad. Maybe this person is upset about something. Maybe you can see where it's going. And when you start changing your thought patterns to not be, why is this person hurting me? But instead being, what is this person going through right now? You start to see the world from their point of view. And that gives you empathy. You start sort of walking a mile in somebody else's shoes, so to speak. You start thinking, what are the motivations behind this person's actions? What could they reasonably be? How do they feel? What are they thinking? What makes me do that? And just going through that thought process and analyzing other people's thoughts and motivations, that gave me this it sounds like it's a weird spiritual advanced thing. It's not. This is normal human interaction. It brought me up to the normal level of everybody else, of just appreciating how somebody else feels, what they might be going through, and how my actions are affecting them. And then came the empathy. It started, looking back, with people in my group, because they were people that I was... That was the easiest, because I was being told their emotions. There was no speculation involved. These are the people that, on an emotional level, I seem to know the most about, because the whole point of it is that it is all verbally shared, right? There's no hidden meaning here. There's no trying to figure stuff out about why that person I'm in the group with is sad. They're telling me about it very clearly. And so you find yourself starting to worry about them, because these are people who are actually very special to you, and you start remembering the things that they're going through and how that made you feel when you were hearing it, and how you felt when you went through a similar thing, because that's the other point of group, that we've all got fairly similar stories. And I started to realize I'm concerned about these people. I want them to be all right. I want them to be happy. I want them to achieve their goal of beating this horrible mental health problem that we're all living with. I want them to do it. I want to do it myself. And I know how they feel because I know how I feel. And then you start feeling empathy. It's an amazing thing. And like I say, it does open the floodgates. When you start feeling it, it just comes in waves, and you have to learn to just roll with it. Just understand and realize that, yeah, this pain is something you should live with. This feeling other people's pain, because maybe if you feel other people's pain, you're going to be a much less shitty person. Maybe if you start concentrating on how your actions affect others, maybe you'll actually become a nice person to be around, and people will like you and want you to be there because you're nice, because you think about how your actions affect other people. There's a lot of work to be done for me. There's a lot of bridges to rebuild after burning them down and that sort of thing, because that's what everybody with NPD is going through. Everybody who's known us for long enough has got that story about that time we were an absolute dick to them. But this is a good start. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So I strongly suggest that idea of, when you start feeling negative emotions towards somebody for their actions, when you start thinking the worst of people, take a minute and just start listing possible reasons for why they did what they did. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just somebody with these problems telling you how to go, how I dealt with them. And so there's no substitute for finding proper treatment, a proper group to be with and go through this process with. So I always recommend, if these are problems relevant to you, then please seek out the help of somebody other than me. But hopefully that might help you as well. So, NPD and lack of empathy. You can do something about it. You don't have to be like this. Okay? You take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.